It is 7:32. This meeting of the RTM Finance and Budget is called to order. We are missing somebody, actually missing two. Um, Everybody got the announcement that Jenny is now on the Board of Finance. So we've lost two to the Board of Finance, which is still good, but we can, I advise everyone to stay in touch with them. We do have a new member by the name of Karen Knapp. I don't know if any of you know her. I believe she was on one of the library boards. Um, if she does come, we'll have her introduce herself. Um, if not, we'll just do it the next time. Holly's now here. Um, I'm waiting for Holly to show up. Okay. Holly,
Yeah,
can you take minutes for this meeting, please?
yeah, will do.
Okay, thank you so much. All right. Um, so let's get down to business since the Mets are playing in about 30 minutes. Um, First one is to discuss and take action on an appropriation request to add two FTEs funded by a special appropriation from the town general fund in the amount of $89,115. Do I have somebody moving it? I have Bill move, Louise a second. Okay. Um, I'll give you a little bit of background on this and what happened last night. Um, we've requested that these two be added as a single resolution, as they are both a single funding from the general fund, as opposed to two separate um, positions. And the Board of Selectmen voted this as one. The Board of Finance actually broke it out last night into two separate positions. The one position for the police department, the facilities, it was raised that that it may be a 40-hour job now, but going forward, we're not sure that there's 40 hours worth of work for the individual, and that's a concern. And even though somebody might say that, in the future, if that person's only working 20 hours, we'll allocate them to other projects in town. Um, I tend to find that people who are working for 20 hours figure out how to look busy for the other 20. Um, so that was one of the concerns raised. Um, that passed the Board of Finance. Oh, Karen's here. That passed the Board of Finance, um, and as a 5-1 vote, the person who raised the issue on that voted against authorizing that position. The other position, which is a mechanic that will be placed in the Department of Public Works, is had the issue that they thought that that person should be full time in the police department as opposed to split 50-50. Um, so they voted against that because it is allocated to the Department of Public Works. So that one also passed 5-1. Um, I don't know if you had an opportunity to look and listen to Ed Gentile's presentation to the Board of Selectmen. I thought that did the best job in explaining it. So I'm going to open up the floor to discussion.
So, Jack, I can go first. I did actually watch the video, and I mean, I kind of had the same thought. Yeah, if we're adding building management expertise, that's basically what Ed Gentile was arguing for,
Mhm.
then I'd like to know what's the total capacity requirement in the town for building management expertise, right? As opposed to just for a 37,000 square foot facility, which is what he was talking about. So because otherwise to have a full-time person responsible for a 37,000 square foot facility, then we're going to need 3 people for the schools and 4 people for the high. I mean, like administrative people, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. And then
Yeah.
the other thing was it struck me as a bit out of line that we would add a full-time administrator, but then only a 50% doer, i.e. an actual mechanic who can get up there and deal with the HVAC or some of the other problems that were described in the thing. I will say, I mean, I've only been here at the committee for like 3 years so far. But I do actually every year I've reviewed the Department of Public Works budgets since I've been on
Right.
the committee, and I do actually have my my own view is I think Ed Gentile is very competent, and I certainly don't feel that he's that he overeggs things or overdoes things. So my initial reaction it would be certainly to support him philosophically, but maybe dig a little bit, fine tune the capacity request in the mix. That was sort of my reaction to it.
Um, anybody else? I mean, Charles, I agree with you in a lot of ways. Problem is that 37,000 foot building, as somebody said to me, we probably should dynamite it and start all over again based upon the amount of problems that over the years we've had to invest and reinvest and do everything else to. There just has been one problem after another. The other thing that I thought was quite interesting was Ed's discussion that he believes when you're bringing in some contractors, he wants the contractors' work being supervised. And I agree with that. And right now, with only him and Tony really being there to supervise, I kind of feel that that has delayed certain ARPA projects. I believe it's delayed certain other projects that he has in his area. And quite honestly, this all came about simply because there were all these capital projects that came to the Board of Finance after the budget was decided, as opposed to in the cycle. So, with the consideration of everything that Ed has going on, I think that it might take a year or two to clean up what's going on in the police department before it becomes a 20-hour job where you're inspecting capital projects, going for all the inspections. I did like the fact that the administrative captain really doesn't have the expertise to do this, no different than sending out Ed Gentile or Tony to patrol the streets of Darien. Not their expertise. So there had to be something there. Um, but at the same time that comes up, let's say in 2 years, I'm kind of anticipating that there's going to be a lot of projects going on at Great Island where
Sure.
having an extra body might be well worthwhile with the other things that Ed has going down his plate. So,
Right. Well, I agree with that, but then we're actually just talking about an increase in our facilities management capability for the town, not as
yeah,
opposed to one large problematic building, if you know what I'm saying. So,
yeah, I think ultimately you're absolutely spot on in what we're doing, with the initial focus being on the police department. But I wouldn't be surprised if that wasn't matrixed um, subsequently. Um, Part of the issue that, and you heard Ed say it, they have one mechanic already at the police department who unfortunately gets called in on vacations, other things like that, because there's nobody else there to do it. Having that extra body to go and get done the slew of projects that it is, I still think the locker room isn't completed, and that was approved almost 2 years ago. So, you know, we need to get some projects, capital projects completed and done. So I agree with everything you said, and I think I want to include that in our report. So, um, because when it was raised to me by Board of Finance member, I said, you're raising good points. So, anybody else? Okay, are we ready to vote? Okay, all those in favor, raise one hand, say aye. Karen,
Aye.
turn on your mic. Um,
Aye.
Aye.
all right, so that
Aye.
passes unanimous. All right, we're at. Okay. Karen, can you turn on your mic?
Yes, it's on now.
Okay. Um, I'd like you to introduce yourself and then we'll go around the room and give you a little background of everybody who's showing pictures here of who they are, just so that you get to meet all the members of the committee.
Oh, sorry.
So there you go. You're on.
Okay, so I was just filling a vacancy position in District 2. And so I just joined the RTM a couple weeks ago. I've just been to the one meeting. And then I was just assigned to this committee, and I've lived in Darien. We moved here in 2003, and I'm currently finishing up my last year on the Darien Library Board. I've done 5 years, so I'm on my 6th year there. And I actually was on the finance committee there, and then somebody else took it over. So in my prior life, I was a healthcare analyst. And then when we moved up here, I got a master's in teaching secondary math. And I'm just a substitute teacher where my kids go to school. So that's my background.
Well, that's pretty good. By the way, you
Welcome.
will never be assigned the library, since you're filled
Oh.
in for Lynn, who also had a
Yes.
library background.
Yes.
The deal is you don't get to look at the library books.
Okay.
All right. Starting with, I'll go to the top. Well, I'll give you my background. I've been on the RTM for a long time. I don't know how many years. I decided to join once my kids were done playing a lot of sports. So and I stopped reffing, but I have 4. They all played sports, gathered a lot of varsity letters, played in college. And so I decided, okay, I don't have to be dad taxi all over the place. Background is 2 of what were the big 8 accounting firms, and then in banking with Chase on the international side. But other than that, I started out in TGS&A, moved over to this committee, have been vice chair for a long time, and took over the chair. I'm going to say maybe 8 years ago. I don't even know. And it was an interesting year because Kate took over for the town administrator that year, and Jay-Z took over for Liz Mao as chair of the Board of Finance. And all 3 of us wanted to make changes, which was really a perfect storm for all 3 of us to get a lot of things done. And our committees and boards did. So that was good. Otherwise, I've lived in town now 39 years. And that's about it. So I'll give it to Bill. Bill Dunn. As
Hey, Jack. Thank you, Jack. 39 years you've lived in town? Wow.
Wow.
That's
yeah,
quite a long time. Well,
yeah, actually more than half my life. So
goodness. Well, not a bad place to be for 38 years, 39 years. You beat me by a 10. I've been here, my wife and I have lived here. I'm in District 3, and we've lived in town for 28 years. Kids all grown and they're out now, and I figured I had more time. So a couple of years ago, I joined the RTM. and was recruited by Jack to come on F&B. And so this will be my second full year on F&B. And in a little bit of background, I was on institutional equity sales in the city for a couple of different firms, and then switched over later in my career and to the New York Stock Exchange, where I've been in regulation ever since. And here I am.
I'll go to Charles Powers.
And welcome, Karen, by the way.
I'm sorry?
Welcome, Karen.
Yes.
Welcome to the committee. Yes.
Charles, you're next.
We don't hear you, Charlie.
Yeah, you're muted, Charlie.
Sorry, Karen.
There we go.
Welcome, Karen. I'm Charlie Powis, District 1. Also a fellow newbie. I've just been on the RTM and on F&B since, I guess, March of this year. I've lived in Darien since 2005 when my wife and 3 children moved down from Canada. I retired about a year and a half ago after a long career in fixed income. Working for a couple of Canadian banks and Morgan Stanley, half my career up in Toronto and the latter half of my career in New York. Yeah, all 3 children have are effectively launched at this point, and I basically figured that when I retired that I would get involved in the RTM, and I've enjoyed the experience, and I think you will too. So welcome.
I'll go to Peter M. next. I'm going clockwise.
Thanks, Jack, and Karen, welcome. Peter Mahopoulos, District 6. I joined the RTM November of last year, so just wrapping up my first term. Lived in Darien now for about 7.5 years, and I'm a lifelong banker, private banking, and for the last 2 years, I've headed the small business and consumer lending group at Patriot Bank locally in Stamford. So brief background, and welcome again.
Charles T.
So Karen and I had the chance to meet briefly because we're both in District 2. So we met when she interviewed a few weeks back for the job. So we've been in, my wife and I have been in Darien for, we're going on 16 years. Previous to that, I was overseas for more than 20. And I spent a number of years in strategy consulting, most recently as a senior partner at Boston Consulting Group. And then after that, I switched into private equity. And so I was briefly retired, and then I got unretired, and now I lead the efforts to invest in software and data companies for a New York-based specialist private equity firm. But it's been great fun to be on the RTM. I think I'm going on 3 years, I think, at this point, if I remember correctly.
Beth. Unmute. There we
Okay,
go.
I was working on it. I'm Beth Lane. I've lived in town since 2001, so it was getting to be a while ago. I was originally an attorney, and I quit my job to stay home. We have 3 kids, the youngest of which is a sophomore in high school. I've been on the RTM for 5 years, I think, and on F&B the entire time. Prior to that, I was the CDSP co-chair, so I learned an awful lot about the education budget while I was doing that, so I figured I would put it to use. That's about it.
I'm going to make a comment that I made to my daughter. Once an attorney, always an attorney.
That's probably true.
Louisa.
Yes, hi, my name is Luisa Brackman. I am District 1. I currently work still in a bank full time for the last 20 plus 5, 28 years. moved in Darien also in 2001. Have 2 kids. They are also launched. And I have been in F&B around 5 years. And at work, my career has been specialized basically in capital markets and derivatives. And it has been a pleasure being here. And I want to thank Jack, because all of us, we have learned so much from you. And I'm sure that will be the same case. So again, welcome, Karen.
We're going to go to Holly.
Yeah. Hi, this is Holly. Welcome, Karen. I live in District 5. I moved to the Darien since 2007. My 2 kids grew up here, and both of them are in college at this moment. And then I joined RTM 1.5 years, and I really enjoy the time here. I learn a lot, especially after I joined RTM. I spend more time just working in Darien and start to enjoy the town more than before. So I enjoy your experience here.
I'll move to Peter Ofanos.
Karen, welcome. Glad to have you on the committee. But my wife and I have lived in Darien here for 27 years, and I'm in District 6. I have one daughter. We have one daughter who is in investment banking now, 2nd year of investment banking in New York. I've been on finance and budget for, I think, this is my 6th year on the RTM and on the committee. I think you'll find it's very interesting place to be, because basically everything that goes on in this town comes across our desk. I'm a litigation attorney by trade. After about 6 or 7 years doing that, I spent the next 27 years working as an FBI agent in New York, specializing in national security work. And now I work for a consulting company that advises companies doing business in high-risk jurisdictions and other investigative needs to support whatever needs they have. So that's me.
That also means that this committee is well protected every time we meet.
Yeah, I'm not armed.
Bill Smith is last, and Bill Smith may have about the same amount of time that I've been on this committee. So I'm just adding. Bill's been on this committee quite some time and a valuable member. Bill, go ahead.
Hi, welcome, Karen. I'm Bill Smith. I'm District 5. As Jack mentioned, I joined the RTM in 2003, and I've been on the F&B since then. And I'm a corporate attorney by trade. And I have 2 kids, one who's a senior in college and one who's launched. So that's me.
Bill, I never knew that you were a corporate attorney.
All the time.
I mean, not that you advertise that, but I'm still. That meant at one time on this committee we had 4 attorneys.
Can't have enough attorneys, Jack.
Yeah, got to have as many as you can.
Right, and unlike what they say about most attorneys, all of our attorneys know how to deal with numbers. So that gives you a roundup of who we are. We like to try to take a team approach. So the real thing is I may be chair, but my real job is to do nothing more than encourage people to speak their mind about any topic that we're covering. And, we try and stay within our purview, but when we feel that going outside of our purview is necessary, we're more than willing to do that. With the acknowledgement we're outside of our purview first, but then we'll state our opinion. So with that, we're going to go to the next thing on our agenda. It's discuss and take action on a gift from At Home at Darien for a van valued at $65,000. The fact of the matter is that in order to facilitate the At Home at Darien, the vans that they drive are owned by the town. And the drivers are paid by the town, and then At Home in Darien reimburses the town. We do that because had At Home at Darien had to get the insurance and other things necessary, good chance that they wouldn't be driving anyone. So this was a good way to facilitate the service that they provide for a town, and still, as I said, we get reimbursed for it, and we do not buy the equipment. I need somebody to move that. I have Beth and I have Holly. Is there any discussion on this? Seeing none, we can go right to vote. Everybody in favor, raise your hand, say aye. It's unanimous.
Aye.
Okay. Next thing on our agenda is the town owns all the schools. It's owned by the town. However, the schools are transferred to the Board of Ed for care, custody, and control. So now that Oxbridge project is completed, it's time to transfer the project, the building and the property back to the Board of Ed. Now, usually we would not comment on this, but we're going to comment because while the building project is complete, the financial aspects of this project are far from over. So we will be providing information on the financial aspects, and I'll go through it afterwards. But I need somebody to move this first. I have Louisa moving. I need a second. I have Peter M. as a second. Okay. So obviously our discussion is not going to be on care, custody, and control. Project's done, belongs back to the Board of Ed. What I did want to go through, and it's on page 32 of the Board of Finance. If you go to the Board of Finance packet every month and you click on the financials, which I like to review, it says what we spent to date. Some of them have a 1 month lag or 2 month lag. Income has typically a 2 month lag on what's reported. I do know that so far on the investment side, we've earned over $1 million. And so we will probably make budget, but all of our rates are coming down from speaking to the treasurer. So that's something that, you can't just say we made $1 million in the first quarter, so we're going to make $4 million for the year. That's probably not an accurate. I know that's not an accurate statement, and that's before anything else that Powell does over the next couple of months. But on page 32 on the Oxbridge Elementary School, we originally approved an appropriation and a bonding for $63 million. So even though we know that we're going to be getting grants or other monies back, we still have to approve the total appropriation to spend the money first and then worry about the revenues coming in later. To date, we issued, we originally went to market. We went to market twice in May of 20 and February of 22 to fund this project. And when we went to market, we went out and said, we need about 52 million. And the market came back and said, yeah, but we're going to give you a $4.6 million premium. And we said, yeah, but we only need the, we only need the 52 million So we're not going to bond 52 and get another 4 million in premium. So we took the premium and reduced the amount of debt that we had. So we actually bonded only 47,700,000, and the premium was used to apply to the expenses. The transfer from the general fund of 86,000 was actually to pay for some of the issuance costs, and for some reason it ended up out of the general fund. Usually we incorporate that into the bonding authorization. For some reason that didn't work. We got a utility rebate, and year to date we've also received 3.8 million back from the state in grants. Based upon what we built, and there's some difficult formulas. As the example that I use, all classrooms are supposed to be 900 square feet, but if we choose to make one for 1,000 square feet, they're only going to pay us our portion on the 900. And that includes sizes of hallways, all these other things that we do on a new building. So as of right now, we got 3.8, which means that the revenues received is about 56 million with some change, but we've spent 57 million, which means there's about an $845,000 deficit. And here's where the interesting thing comes in. It'll probably be discussed at the Board of Finance meeting in the February through April timeframe. We don't want to overbond this, even though if we subsequently get proceeds back from the state, they would go into the bond fund, which we could then apply against other bonds. We definitely, more importantly, don't want to underbond. That happened one year where we were waiting for a state grant to come in, and we missed the deadline to bond it. And then we had to take the money out of the general fund to pay for that portion that we could no longer bond. So there will be bonding something. So whether or not they bond this full amount or they issue a ban until we get the state grant closed out, that will be discussed in the February to April timeframe. So what it really comes down to is we don't know how much the final grant's going to be. And this is a state organization that has been reorganized recently. And so we may not know the final number for another year or so. So the financial aspect of this, other than whether or not we're doing a ban or we roll it into another project based upon we think what we're going to get, may not be closed for another year or so. If we get the final accounting from the grant and that's closed out, again, we authorized $63 million. We've only we only have bonding right now of an amount close to 5.8 million that's still unissued. So there's a good chance at that time that we might be closing out or rescinding that bond authorization at the Board of Finance when the project financially is closed of $6 million, depending upon what we're getting from the state, or $5.5 million, again, depending on what we get from the state. But I would anticipate that at least $5 million of authorized but unissued debt will eventually be rescinded by the Board of Finance when the financial aspects of this project is closed. So that's what we'll be reporting on, that while the project's completed and the Board of Ed, you now have this property again, the financial aspects of this project may not be completed for yet another year. Apparently, once we make this transfer, if any other expenses related to the construction of Oxford School comes in, they will be paid directly by the Board of Ed. So we've waited a while, because that school's been open and operating, to collect all the final bills and make sure we have everything accounted for. Any dribs and drabs are now the responsibility of the Board of Ed. The final decision on the finances may take a year, it may take 2 years, but in conversation with Jen Chinesky, our Director of Finance, we are watching that. And I just thought our committee and the RTM should understand that aspect of that this project is still open from a financial perspective. So is there any questions on that? Okay. Seeing none, we should probably vote on the care, custody, control, maintenance, and everything else that goes along with handing the building to Ox Ridge. If we're ready to vote, all in favor, say aye. Okay, that passes unanimously. So, I have two other things here. One I'm really not going to talk about. There's continuation of movement within the ARPA funds of which projects are continuing, which ones are being moved out, and what new ones are being added. Again, all have to have a confirmed contract no later than December 31st of this year and have to be completed by December 31st of 2026. Anything that does not have a firm contract at the end of this year are funds that have to be returned to the federal government. So they're working feverishly. One of the things that is being discussed, we discussed, and I think they've taken this approach, is on many projects we put a 10 or 15% contingency. In this particular case, we're not putting contingency on, because if by the 26th, by the end of year 2026, we have not spent all that money needs to be returned to the federal government. So it makes no sense to put on a contingency that may or may not be spent. It's probably easier to say, here's what the project cost is. If it goes over, the Board of Finance can allocate funds from the reserve fund for capital not recurring expenditures out of their contingency account to pay for that, or it will come to the Board of Selectmen, Board of Finance, and back to the RTM to make up any additional difference out of the general fund funds to cover any overages there. But that's the safest way to ensure that this town that gets so little, bless you, doesn't need to return any money to the federal government that we don't have to. So that covers what's going on in all. The next thing is that there's a potential that this committee will have a special meeting in November prior to the assignment of committees at the end of November, because there's a potential that a fire engine needs to be purchased, and there's usually a time frame on that, and that typically includes bonding and then an appropriation and bonding of it. The reason why we bond fire engines is that if we just say we're appropriating it, it's assigned fund balance that sits in the capital account for 3 years. And it's better to keep money in the fund balance that's unassigned than assigned fund balance. So if we so choose to eventually pay for it out of cash in any year, we typically pay 25% within the first year, and then the remaining 75% upon receipt of the fire engine. And based upon what was happening post-COVID, fire engines went from taking 18 months to deliver to 3 years. So no reason to tie up our money. We just do an authorization for a bond. We're not issuing any money. 25% of that is easily taken out of the general fund and then repaid should we go bonding or elsewhere. So as all committees stay in existence until such time that the committee is replaced. Now, that means that all of you who return are your own replacement. But we're still in existence until the committees meet, which is at the end of November, and reconfigures. So we might be meeting in November to authorize the purchase of the fire engine. If we don't do it in November, I would anticipate that at the state of the town, we would be doing that transaction so that they can put in the order in January. Other than that, I don't have any details on what the fire engine is. I believe it might be a tanker, but I could be totally wrong, so don't quote me on that. I don't know what the anticipated cost is. But I just wanted to make everyone aware that we might be meeting sometime, I promise not the week of Thanksgiving, to have another meeting. So if that is, I'll make sure everybody is aware of it. All right. Next is we have some minutes that are outstanding. And as is the case, and as Holly is our new clerk, you get to take over this part of the meeting, not to put any pressure on you, Holly. So ask for motions and second, and then do your vote.
Yeah, can we have a first?
Okay, I got Peter O, and then I got Bill Smith.
Okay, nice, thank you. And then let's vote. If you're in favor of the minutes, please raise your hand. Okay, thank you.
All right.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm done. Thank you.
Hey, Jack?
Yeah.
Can you let Bill Dunn back in? He got bounced off.
Oh, sorry, Bill. Bill, you back? Waiting for audio.
Sorry about that, Jack.
No, that's all right. I let you in the last time. I wasn't paying attention this time. So, being that it's about 15 minutes into the game, if there's no other topics to discuss, Bill, since you just rejoined us, you can make the motion to adjourn. All right. And do I have a second? I'll take Beth. Thank you all. See you on Monday. I'm just gonna I'm gonna close this meeting out, and we'll see everybody Monday, and then after that, have a great Halloween. So thank you very much. Let me end the meeting.